And for step 14 now, we need two stepper motors. We need these couplings. So these couplings are just like kind of flexible couplers with a 5mm hole on one side and an 8mm hole on one side. 5mm is for the shaft of these stepper motors, and the 8mm is for the threaded rods, or the ball screw rods, well, whatever they're called. And we need 8 of the M3x6 bolts that we've been using for the stepper motors. Now, I have taken off the X and Z carriages, so it's just these uprights that are left, because well, we have to get into here, and having a bar in your view probably wouldn't be great. Also, it makes it a little bit lighter to deal with. It's not as heavy. So I'm going to start with the stepper motors. I'm pointing the plugs out towards the back. So it's kind of like there's a trend here. Plugs are either up or towards the back. So I'm going to slide that under there. I'm going to slide the other one. Same thing, plug towards the back. Is this a different stepper motor? No? Okay. They have these little shim there that I never noticed before. And I will slide this underneath here. It says to secure them and then to put the couplers on. I feel like that might be a little harder, but instructions are instructions, I suppose. So I'm going to put that in there. Yeah. It would be nice if these stepper motors laid flat on to your work surface, but I believe then you'd be transferring a few more vibrations, so I don't know what would be better. It would support the base a little bit more, but maybe create more vibrations. Depends on what you're into, I guess. Personally, I think I'll probably, if it's too shaky, if it has too many vibrations, I should say, I might just mount the whole thing onto a big piece of foam board or something. But now with the stepper motors on, I'll tell you, this thing is getting heavy. A lot of mass there. Now that I got the fourth one in, I can tighten them all down. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to do the same thing to the other axis, or the other motor, same axis. They're both, I like this. Some machines do the 2 Z-axis rods, but they only use 1 Z-axis motor. They link both rods together with the timing belt. But this is better, 2 motors. Could end up with synchronizing issues, maybe, but we'll see. I think we'll be good. I'm okay with having to toy with this a little bit to get it to work properly. Kind of understand that these things are still, you know, we're miles away from where we were before, but it's still in its infancy. 3D printers have a long ways to go still. Still pretty nuts that for $210 Canadian you can get all of this, right? Obviously they stole somebody's design. I don't think this is their own design, but still, I mean, look at it. This is complicated. Put all the parts together, everything. Okay, so I'm going to turn the flat a little bit more towards me so I can see it. Put that on there. I'm going to look for the Allen key that is proper for it. I think it's this one here. And it doesn't say how to line it up, but I can see that the shaft is pretty long. I'm going to put it up a bit. Unfortunately, I can't look into the hole what I'm doing because I get glare from my studio lighting. Let me take a look here. Yeah, the flat does go all the way up. Tighten this. Really not sure what kind of gap I should be leaving. I'm guessing as long as it's the same, it should be okay. Okay, and let's see, what kind of gap did I leave there? Oh, a very small gap. Can't measure it with this. Okay, that's interesting. You know, I might lift this up a little bit more. Kind of hard to say. Again, the instructions aren't big on details, and I'm big on details. Okay, so we're going to go one of these screwdriver widths up. Don't know if that's right or not, but if I fall into issues, I'll just fix it as I need to. I can remove this now. At the very least, both will be the same. That one's tight. Okay, and same deal over here. Turn the flat towards me. By the way, you shouldn't spin your stepper motors freely like that if you have the board plugged in. They can generate quite a bit of back voltage, and most systems will be set up to deal with that. Like most stepper motor drivers can deal with it. They'll just whoops, that's backwards, upside down I should say. They'll have a backfeed diode to prevent any damage, but I'm not really sure what this board is using because they have heat sinks already onto them. So I'm not going to take that for granted, and I'm going to be careful. I won't spin these motors when they're connected. If I need to move them, unless the manual tells me it's okay, if I need to move them, I'll be disconnecting them. Okay, you can take this out now. Oops, I was going the wrong way. There we go, that seems tight. Good. Another step done. Let's go on to the next one. Struggling even more now to get this in shot, but we have the Z-axis back in. We've got the two brass nuts here, and it's time to put the threaded rods. So again, they don't tell me anything about adjustment. They just say put them in, tighten them up. So remember, we cinched these down just so they wouldn't rattle. I'm going to loosen them up again. Okay, so they're easily, see, they have a lot of movement available. Sorry that it's all the way at the extremes of your field of vision there. Loosen these. Okay, time to fit these threaded rods in, and they should drop right into those collars. Little offset, still fit. Oh, that's bottomed out there. I'm going to try to get them just so they don't lift the axis here. Okay, I'm going to tighten. I don't know if I should tighten these yet. Technically they should have been tightened already, but I'm gonna. Feels wrong tightening a hardened grub screw into a hardened lead screw. Okay, I'm going to give that a real good tighten, and again I can loosen these and adjust them if I need to, or I can simply slide the collar up and down onto the stepper motor. So that is one done. I'm going to put the other one here. Might block the light, and I just hit the light with my rod, but that's okay. Okay, thread that in. Thread it in right to the point where it starts lifting, and then back it off. Is that the right Allen key? That's not the right Allen key. Okay, tighten this. And same thing over here. And I think what I'll do is I will lift this axis up as high as it goes, and then I will tighten. I'm not sure actually, maybe I'll just tighten them now. I have no idea. See if I can get them parallel-ish to the rails here. I feel like I should go around, once this is all built up, I feel like I should go around and put a dab of hot glue on every single nut, because everything is just relying on the tension that you put on by tightening it down, but they also tell you not to tighten it down too much because these plastic parts or the aluminum extrusions or whatever are weak. So it's like you can't have it both ways, really. If I lift these, they do go up. I will be able to synchronize them by spinning a bit, but they do look, this rod here on this side looks a little off center. Oh well, you know what, we'll figure it out when it's time to tune everything. Okay, so the next step now is just to put the cross member on the top, and since the cross members are up higher, about 6 inches, 20 centimeters ish, higher than the lens of my camera, I think I'll just put the top cross member on and bring you back after. So step 17 includes just sliding the extruder, it's just a complete carriage assembly, over the z-axis or z-x-axis, whatever you want to call it. It's the x-axis in this direction, z-axis in this direction. But so one thing is that these bolts here contacted this plastic. So the plastic holders, remember how I told you that they didn't tell me if it should be at the bottom or at the top? Well, guess what? This extrusion needs to be at the very top of the plastic here, because or else these bolts, as you can see, they're a bit longer, they would go over and touch this. Also, the bracket they use on this side here for the extruder, if you see, the bolt actually touches that, so you actually have to sort of flex it on. It's not really great. This is also in the way of everything because it has the auto leveling sensor, it has the heater and the thermocouple, and it has the fan power, so it's kind of awkward to install everything. And I can see here now that if I pull back the x-axis, it just barely clears the nozzle here. So I feel like once the hot plate is on here, it'll actually contact. So I wonder if these brackets here need to actually be at the top of their travel in these holders instead of the bottom. I wonder if that's how it should have been, but again, the instructions didn't say anything to that effect. So now to adjust these, I would have to take the whole assemblies apart, which I'm fine with doing, but I just wish they would have mentioned in the instructions. But have no fear, if that is the issue, I will let you guys know in this series of videos. So I'll probably make one video at the end showing you all the issues I've had with it and how to resolve them. Another thing is these rods. These rods are not straight, so either they're not sitting straight in the couplers, or they're actually not straight. If that's the case, I'll have to deal with that somehow, and I'll let you guys know how I deal with that, because it does seem stiff in some areas. But yeah, so this is just to put this on, and we will move on to the next step, which I believe will be the belt and the tensioner for this assembly. Step 18 now. This build hasn't been the easiest thing, but this has another kind of degree of difficulty. Now, because the crossbar is on top, that was step 17, I can't kind of angle this the way I want to show you guys what's going on, because my camera's in the way. This thing is tall, like, let's see, from top to bottom, if I can measure this, from top to bottom it is roughly 50 centimeters, so that would be almost 20 inches. And the camera lens actually is 15 inches, 38 centimeters. So yeah, not a lot of space left over here, but anyways, for this step we need this acrylic piece, which is for the tensioner, this pre-built idler tensioner pulley thing for the Z-axis, two 4 mil by 8 bolts, and two T-nuts, which means I have only one T-nut left. Can't really imagine how that would work, but it is what it is. I'm kind of excited to get this done, because for you guys this is all, the videos are all sequential, but for me this is I think day 3? I think it's day 3 of me trying to assemble this thing, because I've had work, job interviews, all sorts of things to do in between. I deal with my wife's stuff. My wife streams on Twitch. I had some lawn work to be done. So anyways, enough of me. So I'm going to take this nut off here. It's the M5 nut. And it seems it goes, this whole stack needs to go apart like this. This goes through this bracket like this, and this whole stack goes back together with the M5 nut like that. I won't tighten this up just yet. I'll slide these guys in. This is awfully tight. The picture makes it look like there's more room, but there's not actually that much room. Okay, so I'm going to put this kind of close. Oh, see? I hate these T-nuts, you know? These T-nuts and I don't have a good relationship at this point. There we go. That one worked. It listened. Okay. So I'm going to put that fairly close to the extrusion, just so that when I tighten this, I have some adjustability in this, and I have some adjustability push-pull on this. Okay, next step, and I assume that's going to be to run the belt. We shall see. Looks like I was wrong. So for this step, it's to install the last limit switch. This thing only has 2 limit switches, one on this direction and one on this direction. So this would be Y and X axis, because the Z axis has this auto leveling sensor. So this has to connect to this bracket using these bolts. They're M2, yeah, M2 by 10. So they go into these recesses like so. It's not always obvious. There we go. Especially these tiny little things, my giant fingers. And now, I believe, see the image doesn't show me much, but it looks like it has to mount this way. So with the rod upwards, I can always flip it around if I need to, like that. But this one actually has space for those M4 nuts, M4 bolts to go in after, which is a nice change. I'm gonna hold that tight, kind of go back here. So that's one, and put the other one on. I kind of wish they would let me sort of assemble. What fell? Oh, that fell. My M2 bolt went flying. I sort of wish they would let me assemble the wiring myself so that it wouldn't be such a pain in the butt to run all these things. Plus, I think I would like connectors instead of having soldered on wires. I know that connectors are less reliable than soldered on wires, but connectors can be more reliable if you know what you're doing. Well, so can solder if you know what you're doing, because this way I have no way to check if the company did a good job soldering, because they put heat shrink on it, and I know if I do it myself, then at least I know that'll be decent. Okay, so let me grab some M4 bolts and T-nuts, which I think I only have one left and I need two. So let's see if I can find another one. And sadly, it looks like they did short me one T-nut. So because this is not really a structural part, it's just the end stop, I'm going to proceed anyway. I'm going to leave, just do one. I might order some more of these T-nuts just for prosperity's sake, because the ones I have for my custom build are actually much higher quality. They don't spin in the bore like these do. They're much wider. Oh, that's not good. Can't get this off now. They don't spin in the bore like these do. They there we go. Whoops. Well, never ends. There we go. They're flat, so they have to be fed in from one end, and therefore higher quality, and therefore a little overkill for what this is. I think that'll be just fine like that. So if I can go like this, wow, that's not very well adjusted. Just this little edge here that catches. Might have to 3D print a better solution for that. Doesn't instill very much confidence. I almost feel like the acrylic should be milled down a bit, or something should be stuck here to be a more positive stop, but there it is. What do you want me to say? Let's go on to the next step.